6 o'clock, I'll call the meeting to order. We'll pause for a moment of silent reflection. Aaron, will you use the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. Will you listen a roll call, Willie?
Be glad to. Corey Hall,
Present.
Ryan Williams,
Here.
Jerry Burmeister,
Here.
Steve Denny,
Here.
Marissa Skaggs.
Here, 5 out of 5 members, we have determined that we have a quorum. Moving on to approval of minutes from the December meeting, those are in the Google Drive. We actually have 2 sets of minutes, one for the 9th and then one for the special meeting that we had on the 17th. Where we approved the budget for electric, water, and stormwater, as well as formed the 2 boards necessary for the police to enter into Flip 77. Any questions, comments, concerns regarding those minutes? If there aren't any, I will entertain a motion for approval of both.
I'll make a motion for approval of both.
I have a
Second.
motion, I have a second. I have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes from the December 2024 meetings. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Moving on to clerk treasurer's report. That
Okay.
is in the Google Drive. Willie, what you got?
Oh, everyone's got a copy of the accounts payable voucher. I don't think there's anything on there. It's not self-explanatory, or if anyone's got a question. Just looks like a normal month of bills.
Any questions for Willie?
Aaron, I got a question for you.
Yep.
We're paying for a porta pot out there on number 4. Are you using it now?
It's not for that, for the one
Okay.
conservation.
Okay. Be a cold one.
Anything else for Willie? If there aren't any questions, I entertain a motion for approval of the December 2024 accounts payable vouchers.
Make the motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the December 2024 accounts payable vouchers. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Moving on to the department reports. We'll start with the police. Chief Mark Barr.
Good evening. At the annual Christmas party for the police department, the 2024 awards were given out. Officer Jerry Branson was awarded the Officer of the Year by peer vote, and I always try to stress that the officers of the department vote and they put their reasons why. So I think that's huge personally. Officer Mike Alford was recognized for his 30 years of service this last year. He hit 30 years. And Officer Nathan Silva was awarded honorable mention because of all the activities that he's now interjecting himself into, such as the ballistic shield training, the TAC med training, and the defense tactics stuff. So Officer Silva's really stepped up being the new guy. And that was recognized by the officers. We completed officer oral interviews for the 2 positions we're looking to fill. We had 24 applications total. We narrowed that down from the 24 down to 3 that we wanted to meet with. And of the 3, we chose 2 and gave them verbal offers, which they've accepted. So now we're just in the phase of having our meeting and getting the blessing of the police commissioners. And once that happens, we'll get them on the payroll and they'll start. We're excited to get them here. They both live in town, which is huge. And that's been a rarity in the last few cycles of hiring. And we're excited. Total dispatched incidents for the month of December was 977, 14,434 for the whole year. Adult criminal charges, 56 of 23 adults that were arrested. For the year, 314 total criminal arrests. 0 juvenile arrests in December, but we had 10 over the year. Traffic crash investigations, 25 of 372 for the year. Changing the area out there, we were just looking at the hot spots of town. And once we put the concrete out west, that helped. Remember, that was crash every other day. There was a crash out there. So that helped The hot spots now is the area definitely on 67 between 38 and 36. And what it is, and we tried to educate people, I don't know what sign it would take to do it. I've seen this sign in other towns, but it's the wave throughs. People will stop and wave someone out of the gas station, and when they go, they forget about the turn lane. And the guy waving doesn't look at the turn lane, he just is being polite because it's Indiana. That's why roundabouts were a big issue, because Indiana's polite people. And they've now gotten more aggressive, stopping and.
Yeah, stopping around.
So that's a hot spot out there, but I know we have the project coming up, so hopefully that'll iron that out. Cause we have a heat map. If you ever want to see that, we have a map that'll show the hot spots where the crashes were. Indiana code citations 37 and 1,186 for the year. And that is it.
Great. Any questions for Mark?
We got a new sign too.
Oh,
Been up by the PD, we got a new sign outside.
Chief, with bringing on 2 new ones, what will that bring your total number?
15 hours.
15.
And they're going to night shift, and I've got some night shifters switching to day shift, and
Great.
Thank you.
Mark,
yes.
one compliment. Officer Evie,
Evie,
I called him during Christmas vacation, or I think I called you. And we had a neighbor lady that her daughter's here from Chicago, locked her keys in the car. And he came out instantly, popped it, got it out. She couldn't believe how nice he was.
right,
Did an excellent job. Appreciate it.
yeah, I've got a good team right now.
You do.
So.
Other than Lucas.
I was the one you called.
Oh.
Yeah, but did you see how I took it?
I did.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ronnie called too.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Park Department.
Good evening. Not much to report on other than what's in my report, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to fire away.
Any questions for Aaron about his winter golf league or anything else in his report?
It's all exciting stuff, so make sure you read through it carefully.
We will.
Very intrigued by the sledding portion. Thank you.
Yeah, you would be amazed at the number of footprints out there, but it's good to see the kids out there having fun, and we haven't had a significant enough snow to sled in a while, so everyone took full advantage.
Awesome.
The whole golf course,
All of it.
all of it.
Unless it's a marked area where they're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
They'll go everywhere else.
Aaron, the park looked great at Christmas, as always.
Yeah, we can't,
Right.
the Friends of Falls Park coordinate that with volunteer community groups throughout the community, and yeah, they do a great job.
Nice.
So.
Any other questions?
I
for
also
Aaron?
saw, I think I mentioned to you, I saw 2 of your boys up here plowing the street the other day. We appreciate that.
Yeah, not a problem anytime. All
Anything
right,
else?
thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
Planning Department?
Yeah, so you have my building permit summary in front of you. December's always really slow. Only 3 new houses sold, same as last year, and well, yes, in 2023, since this was for December. We did have 1 grant allotted from HPC for a couple new carriage lamps for the front of the firehouse. If you are any taller than me, you will scrape your noggin on them if you walk near them. So they are kind of the original globe bulb style that we have from a picture from 1943, I think is when that's from. So it matches those. They'll have them installed soon. So that was a, small but very impactful grant. So we're really happy HPC could do that. Another new thing that I've got is, late in the month in December, the Heritage Hub Hotel, which will be south of the Starbucks, on that 12-acre site. They're only gonna be in one corner of it. It'll be 5 parcels there, but one of them will be a hotel. They have begun their site plan review with us, so they submitted their documents and they're under review with us right now. They are gonna be seeking a conditional use from BZA here next week or week after for the hotel use. They have to get a special exception for that, but they just kind of preemptively turned everything in just to be ready if they get that approval. So the last thing that I've got is Arabian Point finished one more house in November. They had 3 in mechanical and 1 vacant. They now only have 2 left and 1 vacant. So those 2 houses that are in mechanical should be done by springtime. He's holding 1 lot for kind of a special design, so he doesn't really have a timeline on that. But the majority of the subdivision short of that one should be done by spring. So that's been a really, really nice subdivision to work in. It looks fantastic. So, any questions on any other items or anything I can answer? Anything for Hannah? Thanks.
Go to town manager's report.
Okay, not a lot to report, just because it was a holiday season, but the one thing that the guys did a great job of plowing, and thanks for the park, they always come in and help, especially with the downtown stuff after they get done. But I thought we'd talk real quick about what our priorities are, just so you know, as town council members, what we focus on. So the first rule that we implemented when we became town manager, if either police or fire EMS calls and said they need a street plowed, salted, whatever, then the guys go to that immediately. Or if it's nobody's out doing it yet, who's ever on call, they don't ask questions, they just go do it. They don't have to call me and get permission or anything like that. So those are something that I think is important to do, because they're out there, the police officers are patrolling, fire department's out there responding to calls, they know that there's a problem and we shouldn't question it. Then the next is priority in school streets. So a priority is anything that's high volume, higher speed, has a higher speed limit, high, what I call high visibility. It's important to the public, and then the school streets, which would be East Street and Water Tower Drive, and there's school, right? And then the next is the connector streets and collectors. These are roads that connect the major drags that are up there in priority 2. An example would be like Indiana Ave, Clark Street, one of those, Madison Avenue. Then the next priority as far as streets are the dead end streets, the subdivision streets, where that's usually where people either start their trip or end their trip, right? A dead end is a good example. It doesn't really connect to anything other than it's like the one little branch on a tree going to the trunk. And then alleys, maybe, right? If we can get to them, but that's the lowest priority. If somebody calls in, like you called in, somebody couldn't get out and is elderly, then we'll maybe go down that alley, but that's usually a low priority. And by the time we get to that, enough people have driven up and down that alley, it's got a path anyway. Just so you know, our drivers are restricted to 12 hours. They can be in the driver's seat 13 hours, but they have to have a 1 hour break. So really it's a 12-hour rule, and then they have to go and rest for 10 before the clock starts. Now that doesn't mean Ricky loves to break this rule. So he'll drive for 12 hours, then he'll work on the trucks for 12. You know what I mean? The guy just keeps going. So, but he hasn't violated the driving rule. He's still at work. So that's an example of, even though you may see the guys here longer than the 13 hours, they shouldn't be driving actually in the seat more than 12 in a 13-hour period. And then downtown sidewalks and school sidewalks, we've decided to add the west side sidewalk on East Street, because we're having too many incidents with the kids. A lot of people that live on that street are elderly. They don't get out there and shovel their walks anyway. So we're going to start being proactive about that sidewalk. And then we do the downtown sidewalks out of courtesy, because we have the public parking across the street. We have the town hall here, the public parking down by the laundromat. By then, if the guys have got the equipment in to do that much, they might as well do the 4 blocks, right? From the middle here. So 1 block this way, 1 block that way, and 1 block each way. And then just because they're on a street or by a street that's not their priority they should be on, and it's real easy for them to catch it, then go ahead and do it, right? Nobody's gonna get mad at them if they grab a subdivided street just because it's easy to do on their way to hit one of the higher priority streets. So that's all I had. Wonder if you had any questions on that? How
Any
that
questions for
works.
Scott?
You know, as a downtown business owner, very much appreciate that you do the downtown area.
Yeah,
Overall, I thought the guy done a great job.
Yeah.
If we had 6 or 8 inches.
yeah. I think too, if it's a really bad storm and we're doing everything we can, all forces to keep the roads open because of drifting. If they can't bump, if you go back up, scroll a little bit. If they have to stay on number 2 on that priority, then they're gonna do that. They are gonna, whatever it takes, they're not gonna jump to priority number 3 and then let the drifting close all the priority streets, right? So just know when it's really, really bad, high winds, high drifting, they're gonna stick to the primary routes. And there's been times in the last 2 years when that's all that happened. It took every effort we had just to keep the higher priority streets open. Okay,
Any questions? Comments? Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have no old business. First item of new business, election of town council officers. We elect a president and a vice president. We'll open up the floor for nominations.
I nominate everything to stay the same.
That's an option.
Stay the same. We'll have the minutes say that. Stay the same would be Marissa Skaggs as president and Steve Denny as vice president.
Yes.
Any other nominations?
Robert's rules, that's allowed.
Yeah.
Everything stays the same.
I would second that motion.
Any other nominations? Okay, if that's the only nomination, I will entertain a motion for approval.
I make a motion for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the slate as presented. Marissa Skaggs as president, Steve Denny as vice president. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Oh, congratulations, thanks. I got that fish hook hanging out of my mouth and I just can't quite get it clear. Ordinance 2501, additional 2 15-minute parking spots. Hannah Rose, I'll let you walk us through since this was a late ad yesterday.
Sorry about that, getting this in late. Yes, thank you, Jacob. Everyone see this? So we are looking to add 2 15-minute parking spaces right here in front of Tyler Martin Insurance, which is 115 West State. The existing ATM here and canopy is being removed. BMO Harris is putting a walk-up only ATM here. HPC has already gone through and what that will look like. It'll be flush with the building. But with that, Tyler is closing down this area. He does not want traffic exiting anymore. He has some ideas. We've been working with an engineer. We can fit about 4 more public parking spaces right here. And then he has some ideas of what to do here for like public art, maybe some seating, doing an engagement like the events in the alleys that South Madison did, maybe doing something like that, or a connection with PAS. But with that closure, we are able to strike in 4 more spaces on State Street and add 4 more spaces in the parking lot. So essentially with that ATM moving, not only are we getting more spaces, but there's a lot of vehicular and pedestrian safety issues here. Exiting traffic, people maybe not looking for a pedestrian. If you've ever tried to turn out of there and it's real busy, and especially if you've got a full line of cars here, line of sight is not ideal. And we're close to our 2 busiest intersections in town. So it's really a win-win. And I'm happy to answer any questions about his ideas or timeline, anything like that. But the only thing is that we are going to be raising this sidewalk up since it is flat, being a driveway right now. We're going to be doing that with a larger project to update our traffic signals, add crosswalks, do some other things. It's just more fiscally feasible to do it with a larger project and have it be a standalone. But that will be done. It is still ADA compliant, but it'll just be a while before it's raised up and given a chair back curb. That's kind of a long and short of that and why we're doing that. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Hannah, you mentioned 15-minute parking areas, right? A couple there.
The ones
The
that are in
pink
pink.
ones, the pink, these would be the 15-minute parking spots,
Okay.
right in front of Tyler's building here. And then, so this is not actually a spot right now. This is striped out so that you have the ability to turn out of there when this used to be a drive-through. So it's for line of sight, but it'll be one of the ones that's striped in. So we're getting rid of that striping and this striping, being able to add those in. And then I didn't show the floor down here because we haven't finished engineering that yet.
We approve this. What's the timing for this to happen?
So the ATM is being moved in the last week of the month. So, I don't know what their construction schedule kind of looks like to install and get it up and running, things like that. And then the ATM is one part, the canopy removal is a completely other bag of badgers. So he's gonna be doing that within the next couple of months. But irregardless, he wants to shut this down as soon as the ATM is gone. Now, for example, if he needed a large contractor vehicle to get in here to remove this canopy, it's a very hardy canopy. We can always work with the street department to block this off to allow an exit if that truck can't turn around. We've done that for, when buildings along here are getting rehabs and need installs and need the spaces, but, other than that, I think end of January is a good timeline to say.
This would require 2 reads also. So we have, we can suspend the rules and do 2 tonight, you do 1 tonight and 1 at the second week of February, or whatever.
Yeah, I have one request, and don't necessarily state a condition to approval either, but I want to clarify the barrier. I know you have
Yeah.
flower pot or barrier there. Is
Yeah.
the concept being it's not a hard barrier, i.e. whatever's there could theoretically be moved. The reason I'm asking you, downtown, very locked in, very
Mhm.
tight, as we all know.
Yeah.
Particularly with that ATM gone, if that was really an open lot, God forbid, but that could be a really valuable placement for fire protection, for ladder placement if needed. And so I just think about that area as that could be just a primo location to be able to think through. I just didn't know any more about the barrier or any other detail. It's kind of a rare break in
Yeah.
the town structure
Right.
when we have a really tight lane out of
Right.
collapse zones.
And we could do soft landscaping there too. It doesn't have to be, we could do kind of those up down patterns that go into the ground so that you can, exit as necessary.
We had at one point talked about like potted arborvitae's type thing,
Yeah.
like something that is somewhat
It's
mobile.
movable.
And something that's decorative too. It's not gonna be like when you see like event barricades that are
Sure.
cement and they're 4
Yes.
feet tall. It's not gonna be like that.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got a lot of ideas for that over there, but I wouldn't necessarily think any of them are completely immovable.
Okay.
But I do think we need to do something. If not, we'll have people trying to sneak through there.
And signage too, we can definitely put up, something that assists with that, but I think whatever kind of, barrier we go with will be certainly sufficient enough to make sure people can't squeeze through. We'll definitely take that into account.
That's great.
And Corey brings up a good point. If we had to, we could get through there with a
Yeah.
truck. It wouldn't be horrible.
That's great.
So
Thanks.
truthfully, we're only changing 1 existing parking spot to 15 minutes. And we're
Correct.
adding 4 additional on the street with a possible 4 more in the private parking lot that we lease, correct?
Yeah. But there will be a total of 2. 15
Yes.
spot. Okay.
But we're not losing, that's what I was trying to
Oh,
say.
no,
I didn't want it. Public parking on State Street is at a premium, and so that's why I was trying to just illustrate the point that the only existing parking spot that's actually changing is that one that's furthest to the west,
yeah.
because number 4 is new,
Mhm.
and then 3, 2, and 1 are all new
Correct.
also, so, okay.
So, getting up to 8 more spots, in our very limited areas is pretty exciting.
Well, even 3 more that are unrestricted.
Sure, yeah.
Is.
That's huge in the downtown
Yeah.
area.
I know, and Tyler's been really, on board with it and willing to work with us, so. You know, with the barriers and stuff, we'll make sure that he knows that we'll, maybe he'd be able to get through there. So. Very exciting.
So what do you think? We want to move
It's,
to there.
are we gonna be prohibiting, I mean, is it going to be problematic if we?
I would, like to see it done in one reading, just to make sure it fits with their timeline with install, if this is something, you know, I, don't wanna hold them up at all with moving it another month. That's kind of my only recommendation.
And they won't move it until there are 2 15-minute spots. I'm just
I-
asking.
I think that they're very hesitant.
Okay.
So.
So we need to do two.
We'll have to make a motion to suspend the rules. That will have to be unanimous, and then we'll do the second read.
That's one more question
Yeah,
for
sure.
clarity to you guys.
Absolutely.
Assumption, right? You're not in a position, you're gonna be striping that, you know, this month, or is that not true? I don't know how impacted that is. from
By the weather, I don't either. That was
Yeah.
my question is how fast can we get it started?
How fast can you guys deliver on the
I think
work we
forget
have
what
to
the
do?
temperature
Yeah, I
is. There is a
forget what it
minimum
was
temp-
too.
Temperature to paint.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get it done as soon as we can.
But yeah, I think it'll have to be if the ground is warm enough to be able to. hold it, which. But yeah, as soon as we can get it done and the ATM is moved and he's ready to close that, we'll strike it on in.
No matter what, it's a huge win for traffic, pedestrians, parking. I mean, there's like the win-win-win thing. You
I
don't see
know
this
the
that often.
planning department was like, oh, this is a
Yeah.
huge deal. And it's really just, it's such a small thing really, but it's
It
such a
is.
huge deal for, you know, we don't have a lot of space. So it's solving a lot of problems we have at that point.
Putting on-street parking spots on State Street is a really big deal. So, okay. If there aren't any other questions, I'll entertain a motion for approval of ordinance 2501. Additional 2
One more
15-minute parking. Oh, yeah,
question,
go
please.
ahead.
This doesn't interfere anyway with our contract where we rent spaces. There's no taking any of those spaces in the back there, are there?
No,
We're gonna have to-
we're gonna add 4.
We're gonna have to renegotiate with them on that.
Yeah, we pay them per space.
Per spot.
First
okay.
phase.
All right.
So no, it's not affecting anything existing. You know, obviously we don't pay for the ones on State Street, but any additional that are in this area that we can fit in there, we would want to rent.
Well, there's nothing along that side currently that's like, that's all prohibited part. Like you can't park there anyway, so. Okay. Okay. If there aren't any other questions, I'll entertain a motion for approval of ordinance 2501, additional 2 15-minute parking spaces. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second,
I have a motion and a second for approval of ordinance 2501, additional 2 15-minute parking spaces. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Now I will entertain a motion for suspension of the rules to allow for second read. Night it was introduced.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye. Opposed? The rules have been suspended. I will now entertain a motion for approval on second read of ordinance 2501, additional 2 15-minute parking spaces.
motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of approval of ordinance 2501, additional 2 15-minute parking spaces signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. On second read. Okay, moving on, public comment. Anybody on Zoom have any public comments? No hands raised? Okay. Anything from anyone up here? Okay, otherwise I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 6:30.